what's going on, y'all? A&J back here again for the third time today. How about that? We got three in one day. I mean, not that that's something that I wouldn't be inclined to do at certain points, but, you know, usually do at least two videos a day. But either way, the bottom line is that for the best of sports and pro wrestling, the best of pro wrestling and sports, either which way you get the most of both worlds here, and you definitely want to make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe, and notification bell down below so you know when videos are coming. That's if you actually enjoy the content here. But of course, we're doing things a little bit differently. This is actually a mixed bag video, so we're gonna dive into both pro wrestling and sports topics. And this one I'm gonna just get smooth the hell out the way right now, just because Antonio Brown. Of course, it was revealed yesterday that a warrant is out for his arrest for attempted murder, which, oh man, I'm not going to go into too many heavy details about that. And never mind the fact that you could argue it's embarrassing to share the same first name with him and all that, but more than anything else, it's just a matter of why are we even needing to hear about this dude like this? Like, I don't know. I just find it completely wild. It's not particularly surprising that this is a situation that he's found himself in because, I mean, I just don't know how it wasn't coming to that point. I feel like this is just almost the norm with this dude. But more than anything else, I also have to say that this dude has just been showing these signs for entirely too long. And the funny thing about this is that we're talking about him being looked at for attempted murder. How the hell has nobody taken him out already? Not that I'm wishing that on him, but I have to ask that because it just seems as though he's the type that, I don't know any other way to look at it. He just has a way of putting himself in these situations. So if anything, really prayers for this man, because boy does he ever need them. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I just can't understand why this actually has to be a thing with this guy. I don't really get it. I mean, I'm not surprised, but it's like after all the things that have happened throughout the entirety of his career, you'd figure maybe we need to stop somewhere, but clearly this dude doesn't know what any of that means. I don't know, but we're going to leave that alone. We're going to move right into other business, and this is actually good business because it's actually been reported that Omos has signed a new deal with the WWE, and it's actually a long-term deal. I don't know all the details on that, but I do want to talk about this because it's really, really interesting to me that this is something that's actually been revealed. Omos, in all honesty, has not been on WWE programming for at least a year or so, similar to Kiana James, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos. But to me, what I really have to wonder about when I think about this, when are we going to see him on TV? You know? And oddly enough, the main topic of this video that I want to talk about, I'm going to kind of fit him into that, but that's just kind of where I have to question this situation, because what exactly is going to be the direction that WWE is really going to go with this guy? And hopefully it's a good one, because I actually like Omos, and he had a pretty good run with Pro Wrestling Noah not all that long ago. Actually passed his half of the tag team championships to one of the members of the faction that he was a part of. I don't remember all their names right now, so I'm not going to say that, but just the fact that that's something that he did for the sake of him returning to WWE, you want to hope something's going to be happening with him, and sooner than later at that. But with all that in mind, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the next subject, which is actually Pat McAfee. And of course, this is perfect for this being a mixed bag, because we can talk both pro wrestling and sports when it comes to Pat McAfee. and I know I say pro wrestling as if it's not a sport, and to be perfectly honest with you, I believe it is, but there's an awful lot of the population out there that do not see it that way. So, kind of easier to just have its own separate kind of category of sorts. But that's all aside from the point. It's funny because I want to talk about Pat for the fact that not all that long ago I saw a post on X where it turns out there's a potential that the McAfee show could be moving to Netflix. Now, I'm not going to cite any sources. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just saying is there are individuals out there that believe that this could happen. And shout out to Charles with Dreamers Pro. He actually pointed out a particular reason why. In fact, he's got a couple of videos discussing a reason why it could happen. And it turns out there are an awful lot of people, I guess, amongst the higher ups and behind the scenes for ESPN that McAfee isn't particularly happy with. I'm not really sure why that's the case. One thing that I will say is that hopefully this is really much ado about nothing, but given that, again, Charles from the aforementioned Dreamers Pro, definitely check that out. I'll actually look to throw a link in the description, but he talked about that. He talked about the situation with inside the NBA moving from TNT to ESPN and how he finds that to be shaky. I'm not going to go too much into that, but just the fact that there have been these things discussed about ESPN in the past, not so much about any issues between individuals behind the scenes, but things that, well, I guess there are, it does come down to that, but it's more because of the things that have happened, particularly with a lot of sexual misconduct stuff, and thankfully a lot of that has been cleaned up. But at the same time, you gotta kind of wonder what's going on if these things are being discussed to the extent that they are. And does this lead to the McAfee show ultimately leaving ESPN? Which to me is kind of wild because he's also a huge part of College Game Day. And especially for the fact that come football season, he's gonna actually be leaving the Raw commentary desk to join College Game Day, and that'll be throughout the entirety of the football season, or at least the college football season. I don't know, really, really wild stuff. We'll see what happens there, but man, what's up with y'all, ESPN? Damn, man. Anyway, moving right along to the main topic of the video, we gotta talk about this one. If you've been watching Monday Night Raw and other WWE programming recently, especially this week, we've got the brackets for the King of the Ring tournament. And one portion of the bracket, which is actually a Raw qualifying match, a Fatal 4-Way specifically, there was actually a mystery spot. We've actually confirmed who that spot is actually going to, and that is none other than former World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso. I love how that worked out. But yeah, it turns out he's got that spot, which is really, really wild to me, especially given the fact that, if anything, I would have figured it would have gone to this guy right here. One Ilya Dragunov, who has been confirmed to be cleared to return to WWE programming, but we don't know anything in terms of when we can expect him back. I got to imagine it's going to be within the next couple of weeks or so. And hey, seeing as how Jey isn't going to be going directly after Gunther for a rematch for the World Heavyweight title, maybe we get Ilya. Maybe that's the match we see at Night of Champions, although I won't be watching, as I mentioned before. I'm not going to go into that. But what I will say is this is really, really wild, especially for the fact that I don't see that Jey's going to win the tournament, especially when, if he wins this match, which there's a pretty good chance that he does, he's got Cody next. Come on now. You're going to put him in this match to go against Cody. What are we doing, WWE? Seriously, what are we doing right here? And especially when we got a perfectly good Ilya Dragunov to work with. I mean, I don't know. Hell, for all that's worth, I talked about Omos earlier. It could be him. What are we doing? ESPN, WWE, what are we doing right now? Anyway, just something I wanted to get off real quick. Well, y'all know what to do. Let me know what y'all think down below. Like, share, subscribe, as I mentioned before. Don't forget that notification bell so y'all know when the new stuff is coming through. And with that in mind, I do thank y'all for coming through. This has been your time with A&J, and I appreciate you spending it with me.